Hello, I am Monica Sweeney. I am a yoga instructor and a certified yoga therapist, and I'm also a registered nurse. And today we are going to practice yoga for back pain. You do not need any experience to practice this class, so I'll give you lots of variations of different poses to suit any needs. And if you have any questions or you feel you need a different adaptation, since this video will be available to you all week through the Taste of Yoga with Rainbow Blossom, you can reach out to me on Facebook under Mons Yoga, M-O-N-S Yoga, or on Instagram, and that is Yoga Mon, so Yoga M-O-N. So if, again, any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me on the messenger on those pages. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'd like to say is, of course, this class is not meant to prevent, treat, or cure any disease process in the body, and obviously it's not meant to diagnose either. But if you're having some acute back pain or even chronic back pain, hopefully this can help you release some of that tension in the back. So we're going to need some props today. You can have two blocks, but the only reason I have two is the different sizes. So they're the same size this way, but they're just a little bit different in height. So basically for the flatter block, if you're having an acute exacerbation of back pain, or you're having acute pain now, you would want a smaller block. If you don't have blocks at home, you can use books. So hardback books work great. I have used a paperback book before, but it can get a little smushed, kind of pulling the front and the covers back, so I recommend the hardback book. We're also going to need a belt today, and if you don't have a belt at home, you can always use a men's necktie, and you can tie two of them together if it's not long enough. And I have a bolster here. If you do not have a bolster at home, that is absolutely fine. You can use blankets. And the blankets I have are actual, yoga blankets. And so whatever blankets you use, just make sure that you fold them up nice and neat, end to end, so that they're going to be nice and smooth for you. So I like to fold them into kind of this, square, and then that way when you fold them over, again, they're nice and smooth. So I'm going to give you all a few minutes to gather your props that you'll need for class. Oh, and also, a folding chair. If you don't have a folding chair, you are more than welcome to use, a chair that you have in your home, armchair or whatever. And we can use the blocks to raise the floor to you. So, just have a chair or set your mat up close to a chair if you don't have the folding chair. All right? So I'll give you a couple minutes there, and then we'll get going. All right, so hopefully everyone has their props together. And we're going to start off today in Tadasana. So Tadasana is mountain pose, and it's basically a standing posture. And this standing posture kind of sets the tone for all of your standing postures. So you're looking to have some of the same properties that you will learn in mountain pose, or that you maybe already know, and put those into your standing postures throughout your yoga practice. So you're going to root down through the feet. The feet will be about hip distance apart. And I'd like for you to lift up all 10 of your toes and spread them out. And to see if you can notice rooting down through all four corners of the feet, or some people say three. So your big toe mound, the pinky toe side of the foot, and the top of the foot, and then through the heel. And then notice, see if you can notice this nice subtle lift in the arches of the feet. It's very subtle. You may not notice it if you're brand new to yoga. Just see if you can notice that. And then you can just lay the toes down as you spread them out. And we're going to continue to work up through the body. So we want to squeeze the front of the thighs. So we're going to use the quadricep muscles, and we want to engage those quadricep muscles. There's a sensation maybe that the kneecaps are kind of lifting up a little. And then pull the lower belly in. So draw the belly in and up toward the heart. So you're almost creating a little concave area, but we're not like sucking it in and holding the breath, right, and shrugging our shoulders up. We're just drawing the muscles in and up. And then we're going to come up to the chest, the heart space, the sternum plate, and I want you to pull that up. And you may even notice the shoulders kind of draw back as you do that. So roll the shoulders up and glide them down the back. And the palms will face slightly forward. And then just kind of check in with your head. So there's a tendency for us to jut the head forward, almost like we're trying to get our head there first. I know a teacher once said it's like we're trying to get our nose to be there first. And it cracked me up. And it's true. We tend to jut the head forward. So we want to draw the head in line with the spine. So you can do this a couple of different ways. You can take the chin and just kind of push it in like a drawer. So imagine a chest of drawers and you're pushing the drawer in, kind of the same concept there. So you can do that. But if you feel that creates tension in the neck, which for a lot of us it does, you can work by using the back of the throat. Think of the back of the throat here and drawing it back and up. And that also actually lifts the sternum up, lifts the chest up, just with that simple move. So kind of play around with that, try that out. Again, we just want the head to rest on top of the shoulders, shoulders on top of hips, hips on top of knees, knees on top of ankles. So we have one plumb line with the body. But you may notice, now that we have the front body activated and lifted, that we have a little slack in the low back. So we've got some tension drawing in the low back. So what I'd like for you to do is squeeze the shoulders onto the back so you're activating the shoulder blades, working them toward one another, opening the chest even a little more. And then when you get down to the lower back, I don't want you to scoop, right, because then you have to bend the knees. Even if you didn't bend the knees, we just create a lot of tension there as well, and then we close up the front of the body. So keep drawing the belly in and up, and just put a gentle, very gentle lengthening of the tailbone. It's a very subtle move, but that way you're not just dumping all the weight of the body into the lower back there. So just a gentle little lengthening. And so now you have this nice activated front and back body, and everything is in one plumb line. And just close your eyes and let go of everything outside of the room. Notice how this feels in the body. Feel as if you're rooting down through the soles of the feet and lifting up through the crown of the head. Almost as if you were just continuously lengthening and growing in the position, finding a lot of length in the spine and a lot of strength in the body. And then just see if you can notice where the breath is in the body. Maybe you can feel the cooling sensation as the breath enters the nostrils. Maybe you can feel as you breathe in, the lungs and the rib cage expand laterally a little. And maybe you can feel them kind of coming back into the midline of the body as they contract down. Just notice, no judging, just become a witness. And then when you're ready, gently open your eyes. And you can just, shake that off if you like. And so hopefully we've come into the present moment here, and we're ready to practice yoga, letting go of all the distractions of the world. So I have this chair here, and I hope, again, if you have a folding chair, excellent. If not, that's okay. Just come in front of your armchair. And depending on your back pain is how, if you're going to use the seat of the chair, it's basically how low you're going to go or how high you're going to go. You can always use the back of the chair as well. So what we're going to do is a forward bend, Uttanasana, and I'm going to show you those different variations. So I'm going to start with the seat first, and then we'll move and show you different variations, okay? So root through the feet, again, find that Tadasana, the belly draws in and up, shoulders roll down the back, head in line with spine. And then you can bring the hands to the waist, keep the belly really strong, and bend the knees, and soften the knees, and then begin to fold forward, hinging at the hips, but keeping the belly really strong and keeping the back flat. So you're continuously drawing the shoulders on the back. We're not going to round and curl that spine. So you come down nice and slow, and you can bring the hands to the seat of the chair. Now, if this feels, like too much, please back off, and you can use the back of the chair. You can stay here. You can also, if the chair just feels like too much, if you're really in a pretty bad exacerbation, you can use a wall. So I'm going to use the fireplace because it's here. But basically, you're just going to bring the hands shoulder distance apart and place them on the wall and step back. And again, you want the hips, knees, ankles in one line, even though we're going to bend the knees so the knees won't really get in that line. And you just push really strongly into the wall. Keep the back of the neck long. And this is just a wall push, but it's also a forward bend. So you're just allowing yourself to get some length in the spine. And then to come out of the wall push safely, look up between the hands and walk toward the wall nice and slow. And remember, always keeping the belly strong. And for those of you still working on the chair, maybe, I don't know, you have to listen to your body. Maybe you want to go a little deeper, maybe not, or maybe you want to kind of walk the legs out a little bit. You can even lift the heels if you're really tight in the hamstrings and press the knee back, but keep the heel up. Press the knee back, keep the heel up, and that just kind of gets you right into the back of that thigh, into that hamstring area. And then lastly, for those of you that are nice and open, but you still have some back pain, you can always use a block in front of you and go a little lower, keeping the belly strong still, trying to keep those hips forward on top of those ankles. And then again, if you want to even go deeper, you can always drop the body down and you can let the hands rest on the floor. Again, we're still keeping the knees bent. Now to come out of this, whether you're on the chair or block, wherever you are, you can either use the chair to push up, keep the belly strong, keep the back long, or you can walk the hands to the thighs. Kind of hold it there for a moment, make sure the belly is strong, and then press through the heels as you stand up, straightening the legs. So we're using our legs to help us in these forward bends to come in and out of them. That also works just in general life. So when we're going to pick something up off the floor, think of every time you pick something up off the floor as yoga. So instead of just rounding down and grabbing it, be mindful. And every time you're going to pick something up, get those knees in place and bend them and squat down, to your own degree, of course, and then push through your heels again to come up. So you're keeping the back flat and keeping the belly drawing in and up. So that was Uttanasana. And now we're going to work into Parshvottanasana, Utthita Parshvottanasana. So this pose, again, you can do this from the back of the chair, from the seat of the chair, or from the wall. So I will show you from the seat of the chair, starting off in Tadasana. Again, you can bring the hands to the waist. You can find that Tadasana first, and then fold forward. Bring the hands down to the base of the chair, again, or the back, or you can do this on the wall. The right foot's going to remain forward. You're going to step the left foot back. So you want to have a pretty good sized step, about 3.5 to 4 feet. The further you go back, for most of us, is going to be a deeper stretch. So feel free to walk that left foot in as much as you need to. Your left toes are going to be pointing basically toward the front left corner of your yoga mat. And then check in with the hips. So your right hip is going to pull back, and the left hip is going to pull forward. So basically we want those hips in a nice straight line. We want to have them even. And then find that Tadasana in the pose. So I mentioned that Tadasana helps you in your standing postures. So feel as if you can root through all 4 corners of each foot and lift up all 10 toes. See if you notice that nice subtle lift in the arches. And then engage the quadriceps, the front of the thighs, pull the belly in and up, find that length in the spine. So this is stretching the back of the right leg and the back of the left leg. So the hamstrings are buddies with our lower back. If the hamstrings are tight, the backs of the thighs, then the lower back tends to say, oh, okay, I'll be tight too. And then they work in conjunction with one another to pull on each other, and that can create tension. And also known as pain, right? So you'll notice I'm tweaking my head to look up at the camera as I, speak to you all virtually. Please keep the back of your neck nice and long. If you need to look at the pose, you can always pause. And then to come out of this, you're going to look forward, pull the belly in, step the left foot forward, and then we're going to step the right foot back. Same thing, you want to line everything up. So for this one, I'm going to use the wall just to show that wall variation. So again, the same thing. We put our hands on the wall, shoulder height, shoulder distance apart. You step back, left foot forward, right foot back. You want to find a nice stretch for you. The left hip pulls back, the right hip pulls forward, and then you can walk those hands down the wall to your own degree and just push into the wall, keeping the back of the neck long, keeping the hips squared, and keeping the belly drawing in. To come out of that, of course, don't come out yet though. You would look up toward the wall and step forward just like we did before. Last thing I want to show you on this side, for those of you that want to go a little deeper, you can use that block as I mentioned before. So instead of having the chair, you would have the block. Again, the left hip draws back, the right hip forward. The thighs are engaged. And you can even bring the hands to the floor as long as you can keep the spine long. So if you start to round like this, squeeze those shoulders on the back, find that length instead. And then to come out, draw the belly in and up, look forward, soften the left knee, step the right foot forward. Hands come to the thighs, keep the spine long, come up. So we're never just yanking ourselves up by our spine. We're always using our strong core and our legs, that posterior chain of the body, to bring ourselves up. So from here, we're going to do a seated twist. So if you have the folding chair, great. We're going to set it up and we're going to sit on it. If you have an armchair, you can still do this pose, but I'll show you how to do it. So if you have an armchair, and obviously there's an arm here, you wouldn't be able to sit on the chair sideways. So I will show you that variation in just a moment. But if you do have the folding chair, you're going to sit on it sideways, so the back of the chair is right next to your torso. And then I just want you to gently turn and bring your hands to the back of the chair. And then I want you to make sure that your feet are hip distance apart. You're rooting down. And again, this is what I was saying earlier. If you are in a nice fluffy armchair and your feet don't reach the ground, you can always put blocks underneath the feet to raise the floor to you. But we really don't want our knees to go above the hips. So we always want those knees below the hips in a seated position. And that's not just in yoga, that's kind of in life. So in the seated position with the chair, I want you to inhale, lift up, draw the belly in. So really hug it in and pull it up toward the heart. And then as you exhale, look over the left shoulder and just get a nice little upper back twist. Getting right into that thoracic spine. And with each breath, you can inhale, lift a little, exhale, twist a little more, depending on how it feels to you. So this should feel good. We're never looking to create pain in the body. One more breath, inhale, lift up, exhale, twist, and then slowly unravel. And then you're going to go to the other side. So you can just shimmy around in your chair, or you can, of course, stand up and walk around. So for the other side, I'm going to show, if you are in an armchair, I'll show you that variation. So we're going to be, let me turn this a little more. We're going to be going to the right this time. So if you're in that armchair that you couldn't sit sideways on, your feet will be hip distance apart, knees hip distance apart. You're going to take that right arm behind you, right next to your right buttock. Take that left arm up, and take the left hand to the outside of your right thigh. And then on an inhale, you'll push through that right hand, lift the heart up, and then exhale and twist. You can use your left hand as leverage to push on the thigh to help you twist. However, don't let the knee cave in. So you're actually going to have a little human tug of war. You're going to push with the hand, but push back with the thigh. So inhale, lift up, exhale, and twist. Work with the breath to lengthen on the inhale. And if you have the room, twist a little more on the exhale. And then slowly come back to center. Again, always keeping the belly nice and strong. And we're going to come off of the chair, but I want you to keep your chair close. So you may not need it, but if you do, I want you to have it close by if you have the folding chair. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to come down to the floor, and I'll show you a couple of different ways to come down to the floor. So if you're really having a pretty bad acute exacerbation of back pain, you can use a chair to come down. That's a pretty safe way as long as your chair is not going to move. So if you happen to move your folding chair off your yoga mat, bring it back before you attempt to use it to help you get down. So one way to do that is find your Tadasana, soften the knees, and come into that, forward bend to your own degree. So maybe you got to the seat of the chair or the back of the chair. And then you're just going to gently take the left knee down to the floor. All right, then you can take the right hand down, and you can take the right knee down to the floor. And then you can crawl, literally, back onto your mat. So that's just one way to get down if you're struggling getting down to the floor. And then once you get down to the floor, we're going to work into some cat-cow. So what I'd like for you to do is make sure that your hands are shoulder distance apart and that your knees are hip distance apart, and then your hands are going to be underneath the shoulders and the knees underneath the hips. So all you're going to do is untuck the tailbone. So you're going to have this nice sway back, right? And I want you to draw the shoulders on the back. So instead of shrugging the shoulders up next to the ears, we're going to roll them on the back and lift the chin up. Let the belly stretch out. You can even close the mouth and kind of lift the bottom lip up towards the sky and stretch out that throat. And then exhale, push the floor away from you and really curl. So you're going to tuck the tailbone, tuck the chin into the chest, and keep the arms straight. So the arms do not move in this pose. The shoulders and the spine are the only things moving. And then again, on an inhale, roll the shoulders back, untuck the tailbone, let the belly drop. And then exhale and curl. Again, like a Halloween cat, really arching that spine. And now just do a couple more of these, but go at the pace of your own breath. So as you inhale, dropping the belly down and creating that nice opening. And then as you exhale and you curl, creating that angry Halloween cat shape. So flow it with your own breath. Inhales and exhales. And just notice how the spine feels. And this goes for any and all yoga poses, any and all yoga classes. You do not have to go deep into anything. You take it to the place, especially when you're dealing with pain, take it to a place where you feel something happening, but you're not overdoing it. You feel a nice gentle stretch, gentle being the key word here. And let's take a couple of more of those. And then on your next one, come to a neutral spine and just do a gentle little wagging of the tail. So I really want you to just move from the pelvis. It's a very subtle move. But if you have to move from the waist, just do it very slowly because, otherwise we're just kind of creating almost like a whiplash for the lower back. We don't want to fling it back and forth. So really go nice and slow and methodical, paying attention, building that awareness in the body. After all, that's exactly what yoga is. We're yoking, bringing together our body, our breath, and our mind all together. So from here, we're going to work into downward dog. I will show you a variation. So if you find that downward dog is too much for you, that is absolutely okay. I will give you a variation, so just hang tight. So from the hands and knees position, you'll walk the hands slightly forward from the shoulders. Spread all 10 of your fingers out nice and wide. Pull the belly in, keep it strong. Tuck your toes under, and you'll lift the hips up and stay on your toes for now and bend the knees. And then I want you to push back like you're trying to touch your chest toward your thighs, or your chest towards your knees, or your belly towards your thighs. So you're looking for length. And those of you that have been practicing for a while, if you would like to press the heels back and down, feel free. But if you have tight backs of the legs, tight hamstrings, or tight lower back, keep those knees back. So in the downward dog, basically, you want to keep those hands about shoulder distance apart and keep the feet about hip distance apart. And if downward dog feels okay to you, you're going to just hold it for a few breaths, and then you can drop down to your hands and knees, and you can push back and just rest in balasana, or you can even stay on your hands and knees, or you can come down to your forearms and rest. Now, for those of you that needed a variation, I'm going to give you that variation. And the rest of you, work in about 3 to 5 of these downward dogs and resting in between, okay? So for the variation, you can do a few things. You can use a chair, which I'll show you in a moment, or you can come onto keeping the hips on top of the knees. You can work your way down closer to the floor without bringing the legs straight or without bringing the knees off the floor, and just walk your hands forward. And this just gets you into that same kind of shoulder stretch, allows you to be long in the spine still. But some of us may just have too tight of shoulders for that, and that's okay. So what we want to do is use a chair for downward dog. So here's another variation. So it's kind of the same thing that we just did, except you're going to step a little further back. So the belly stays in. We find that Tadasana. We come into that Uttanasana, forward bend. Then you just step back, further than you normally would, just like you did in downward dog. And then as you push, you allow the back of the neck to be long. You can hold on to the edge of the chair. And, of course, like I said earlier, make sure that your chair is on the yoga mat. And if you're doing it on an armchair, just put your yoga mat in front so your feet don't slide. And then to come out of it from the chair, you just look forward. You walk forward like we did. You can stay here to rest, or you can bring the hands to the waist and come to Tadasana to rest. So there are your variations. I'll give you another minute to continue. Again, 3 to 5 of those, depending on how it feels to you. Work with your breath as you're coming in and out, and always taking that rest when you feel you need the rest, not waiting till you're too tired or until there's pain, right? We don't want to have pain. So once you're finished with your downward dog, I want you to just come down back to your hands and your knees. And we're going to take our knees nice and wide. I'm actually going to spin around to show you these. We're going to take our knees really, really wide, and we're going to bring our big toes together. And you can use your bolster if you have one. If you don't have a bolster, that's okay. You can use your blankets, and you can fold them. So as I was saying earlier, blankets will work great as a bolster. So you just stack them and create a bolster. So I could fold this blanket here and fold this blanket over here, and that would kind of create a little bolster. so you can see how that works. Since I have a bolster, I'm going to use it. So you bring the bolster in between your thighs. You're not going to lift the hips to get on here or anything like that. And I bring that up because a lot of people do that. They'll kind of go forward like this. I want you to keep the hips back to your own degree. A lot of people will have a lot of tightness in the ankles and the knees, and so I'll show you that. For those of you that don't have any of that going on, I'll go ahead and get you into Balasana, Child's Pose. You're going to just literally take the hands to either side of the bolster, and I want you to begin to walk forward, letting the belly rest on the bolster. And then when you get down there, you can turn your head to the side, and you can just rest your cheek on the bolster, and I'll tell you when to turn your head, because we want to obviously stretch the neck out to both sides. You can allow your hands to wrap around the bolster. You can reach them out long, or some people even like to just kind of draw the hands back and allow the shoulders to drape around the bolster. So either one of those will be perfectly fine. You just find what feels good to you. Now, those of you that have some tightness in the front of the ankles or knees, I'll show you a lovely way to get into this pose. So take one of your blankets and you just roll it. And remember, you want to be like Princess and the Pea. We don't want a bunch of bumpy spots. We want to really smooth it out. And you know, it doesn't have to be this high. Everyone is different. So if your ankles, say, were really tight, maybe you played some sports your whole life, and so the front of the ankles are really tight, and it's hard for you to sit on top of the feet like that, you would just take the tops of the ankles right there to that roll, so they get a little space, and you can bring the big toes together still and bring the knees apart. The other thing that you can do, if your knees feel crunchy when you're trying to get into that, or they just feel like there's pressure on them, take your folded blanket just the way it is. And this is a little harder to do yourself, but it's completely doable. So you're going to shift forward so much so that you can get the crease of the knee. So we don't want to just be lazy about it and shove it in like that. We want to really go far enough to get the fold of the blanket, the fold, all the way up into the crease of the knee. And that way, when you sit back, that creates space for the knees as well. Then you can pull your bolster back into place. And the same thing, you can rest down so the belly is resting on the bolster. And for those of you in the pose, go ahead and turn your head to the other direction. One more variation I'll show you. If you feel like, okay, I have to lift my hips up a little, I can't quite get my belly to the bolster, stack your blankets up again so that your bolster comes to you. So any props, like your blankets and your blocks, basically they're there to raise the floor to you instead of you trying to make yourself go somewhere in the posture you shouldn't be. So take another minute or two in Balasana and Child's Pose. Let the belly be nice and soft. And once again, tune into the breath and notice what you're feeling in the body. Notice if you feel the breath. Once again, maybe you can feel that lateral expansion of the rib cage. Maybe you can even feel the spine lifting up on the inhale and floating down on the exhale. Everyone's different. But again, we're not judging, we're just witnessing. Just listening and tuning in. And so to come out of your Child's Pose, you're simply going to, if your arms were back, you're going to bring them back forward, and you're going to just walk the hands up to bring you back to that seated position. And just, we're going to actually keep using the bolster, so you can just drop the legs, kind of move them to the side, so you can come onto your left or your right hip. And so I'm turning back around this way to show you all this. So we're going to work into a reclining supported twist. So twists are really good for back pain. That is why we are working them. But again, we're not looking to go deep really into anything, forward bends, back bends, twists, anything when we're in pain, when we're having acute and or chronic pain. So what I'd like for you to do is get your left hip and just put it right next to the bottom of the bolster or the bottom of your stack of blankets, and allow your legs to just kind of be off to the side. You don't have to stack. As a matter of fact, I recommend not stacking them, but you can if you choose. Again, just listen to your body. And then you're going to turn toward the bolster, and you're going to just gently and slowly come to laying down on the bolster. Now you can keep your head facing the same direction. If you feel like, if you have a tight neck or shoulders, then it's going to kind of feel like your head is a little cocked. So you can take one of your blankets and put it just at the top, fold it over and put it at the top. That'll give you a little more space to work with so you don't create any tension in the neck. You can always take the neck, again, like I said, keep it facing the same direction your legs and knees are facing. If you take it the other direction, that just gets you a little more into a little bit more of a twist in the neck. But do what feels good to you. And breathe into this nice, gentle, supported twist. Tune in to the body and the breath and notice how it feels. And then when you're ready to come out of it, and you don't have to come out right this second, but when you're ready, you're just going to, again, if you had the neck turned the opposite direction to get that deeper twist, turn it back, and then start walking your hands in to press yourself up. And then just switch sides. So you'll bring the right hip to right next to the bolster, touching. Let the legs just come off to the side. Walk the hands to either side of the bolster. So you're already starting to get the twist. And then allow yourself to rest down. Again, the hands, the forearms can just rest next to the bolster. And same thing, if you want that extra little bit of twist, you can turn the head. And breathe into this side of the body, just wringing out any tension and tightness in your spine to release those places of holding. And then again, when you're ready to come out of that, taking all the time you need, if you had your head turned in a deeper place, turn it back, keep the belly strong, and start coming off the forearms, walking the hands in, so you come back to that seated position, like so, right? And then just kind of come onto your hands and your knees, whatever you need to do, and just get the props out of the way. So you're going to move all the props. And I want you to have a block close by, or your book, so you can have the flat block and the big block. We're only going to use one, so just, whichever one works for you is the one that I want you to use. So what we're going to work into is a supported bridge pose. This is really a feel-good pose. It's so lovely. I will tell you that if you are having like an acute exacerbation, like you're really struggling with some back pain, then use one of your blankets. They end up being a little bit lower than a block, and they're a little more have a little more give, so that may be helpful to you. So I will show you with the blanket, since I just brought that up, and then I'll place the block after that. So what we're going to do is come to laying on our back. So to come to laying on your back safely, you want to have those feet hip distance apart and check in, before you go down into the posture. 9 times out of 10, we tend to want to slide one foot forward a little more, or we turn our toes in, or we turn them out. So find that Tadasana with the feet. And then what you're going to do is I'm going to have my block right next to me or my folded blanket. You're going to come down, or both if you want to try both, come down to your forearms. So keep the belly strong, work your way down to the forearms first. If you feel good there, keep your chin tucked in as you do this, and just slide the elbows out, allow yourself to come down to laying on your back. And once you get down there, all we're going to do is use our strong lower body to push to the soles of the feet and lift the hips up toward the sky. And we're going to slide our blanket underneath the sacral area of the body. So we have this diamond-shaped bone that is above our buttocks, and I want you to find that spot. So if you have the blanket, the blanket's going to give you a pretty good surface area, and it has more give. But when you're using a block, it can be actually a little uncomfortable if you don't find that sweet spot. So find the sacrum and find that sweet spot again, so that when you get into the posture, you can release into it. So you may notice I'm turning my head to look at you. Do not do that. So when you're in bridge pose, what does that? Do as I say, not as I do, right? When you're in bridge pose, you want to maintain the natural curve in your neck. So you should feel contact on the floor with the shoulder blades and the back of the head, but not the back of the neck. And then the soles of the feet, again, hip distance apart and even, and then just let that whole lower back just relax on the block. The palms are facing up. And for those of you that want to go a little deeper, remember, we're not looking to go deep, but if you want to open your chest a little, you can bring the arms into what I call like robot position, and you can push into the backs of the arms. So you bend the elbows 90 degrees, push into the backs of the arms, and you can squeeze the shoulders underneath you a little bit. But again, you don't have to. I want you to relax in this pose. So close your eyes. We're going to be here for a few minutes. And remember, this posture should feel good. So if it doesn't feel good, then I want you to pause and readjust. Either adjust where the block is or book, or get a lower block or book, or get the blanket. This is a feel-good pose, and it's excellent for your back. Setu Bandhasana, supported bridge. Excuse me. See if you can notice how, after a few breaths, the lower back kind of surrenders. And see if you can notice this newfound gentle opening across the front of the body, which should look pretty good. And breathe into all those spaces that were holding tightness and tension. Allow them to soften and open. Feel free to pause the video and stay here longer. Otherwise, we're going to move on just for time's sake. So I want you to push through the soles of the feet to come out of this. Push through the soles of the feet. Lift the hips up towards the sky and slide the block, book, blanket, whatever you have into there, slide it out. And then using slow, controlled movements, just gently allow the pelvis to come back down to the floor, the sacral area to come back down to the floor. And then take your feet nice and wide and let the knees just drop towards one another and just stay there for a moment. I'll show you what that looks like. So your knees come toward what, they may not touch. They may be here, and that's fine. They're just coming towards one another. The feet are wider, and that just kind of releases any tension that you may have created. But again, we should not be creating tension there. And then when you're ready, we're going to grab our belt. So if your belt is not close to you, then I want you to roll towards your right side, use your right arm as your pillow, and press yourself up with the strength of your arm. So we're never flinging ourselves up, with our neck or our spine. And we're going to work into Supta Padangusthasana, so we're looking at a nice reclining hamstring stretch. So again, the hamstrings are buddies with the lower back. So we can use a belt for this, and I have mine looped. I don't think we're going to have time to do it. I was going to do a different, another exercise, yoga exercise, but maybe next time. So you can use a loop or not. You really don't have to. But you're going to place your belt or your necktie around the arch of the foot. So bend the right knee in, keep the left knee bent, sole the foot on the floor, and place the belt around right below the metatarsals, right below the big toe mound, almost on the arch of the foot. And then press the leg out. So as you're pressing it out, you can spread your toes. There's an action here. So the leg is engaged, and you're pushing into the belt while simultaneously pulling on the belt. So you have a really strong front of the leg so that you can open the back of the leg. So general rule of thumb, anytime you're trying to lengthen a muscle, the opposing muscle should be really strong and engaged. Now, to have it up higher, if you have to bend the knee, then I don't want you to do that. I want you to lower the leg because I want you to feel a stretch. It doesn't matter how high you go. One other thing I will mention is if you keep the backs of the arms on the floor, that will help support. And don't, or try not to, bend the wrist so that you're stressing out the wrist. You want to have a straight line from that thumb to the elbow or to the shoulder. And then we're just going to do the other side. So just, if it's okay with you, you can lift the left leg up, keeping the belly strong, and put that left foot right where the right foot was and let the right foot come down. If you feel any pain doing it that way, then bring the right foot down and start over again on the other side, just like you did a moment ago. Placing the belt, again, almost on the arch, right below the big toe mound there. You're pushing the belt away while simultaneously pulling the belt down. So you're having, again, that human tug of war. There's an action in every yoga posture, except for those restorative poses, right? We love those. and then release the belt from around the foot. Slowly bring the left foot down, and once again, walk those feet out. Let those knees come in towards one another. And I'm pressing up. You stay where you are. Again, if you do need to get up for some reason, you always want to roll to your right side. Let the head and neck dangle and press yourself up with the strength of your arms. I'm just going to check on our time here. Bear with me. Okay, good. So a lot of people with back pain end up having a lot of sciatica and kind of issues in the piriformis syndrome, and a lot of people say it's in the buttocks, my buttocks hurt, or in the hip, or I have shooting pain, burning pain down the back of the leg. So this posture is a very passive, relaxing posture I'm going to set you guys up in. It's really important to let it be passive. So this posture is, a lot of people do it without using a wall, and there's nothing wrong with that. The tendency that we have is that we will overstretch when we do this posture on our own, because it feels so good when you're right in the moment of it. It's like, oh, the stretch feels amazing. But then we overstretch it, and that sciatic nerve, which is wrapped up with all these muscles, we've now stretched these muscles, and we've basically just irritated this nerve. And the reason I'm using my thumb is because your sciatic nerve is about as big as your thumb. So it's a big old guy, and if he gets irritated, he likes to stay irritated. So we want to get him out of that irritation mode. So you can spin your mat around or not. I'm just going to do it this way just to show you. So you're going to use a wall for this. You're going to come about a foot away from the wall and come to laying on your back once again. And you're going to bring the sole of the foot, so like the left sole of the foot, to the wall. You have a 90-degree angle. So the hip, knee, ankle, 90-degree ankle. And then check in with your left foot and just make sure it's not, turning in or out. And then bring the head down. Don't do what I'm doing. I'm trying to make sure you all can see me and stuff. You're going to cross the right leg over. So it's like a figure 4 position. But the thing is that what we tend to do when we do like thread the needle, we'll pull this in toward the body, or we'll push the knee out. And there's nothing wrong with that if you don't have any issues. But since this is yoga for back pain, this is a passive stretch. So I literally want it to feel, and this is going to feel odd to you if you've never done a passive stretch in this before. I want this to feel that right knee is relaxed, right? We're not pushing it out, we're not drawing it in. You want to have that stabilization on that lower back, that sacral area once again. And you're just going to allow yourself to bring the arms out wide, close your eyes, and passively allow this to open. Now I will tell you that this is one of those postures that you can hold for quite some time if you're doing it passively. When I'm having any kind of acute exacerbation, I like to get in it about 5 minutes on each side and just really, but again, it has to be passive. I'm stressing that and repeating it a lot, I know. That's on purpose. So again, if you want to, pause the video, again, you have this video all week. So for today, if it's your first time doing the video and you're just learning, you can switch sides. Now you know the posture. You can do it after the class, or you can pause the video. We have one posture left, the best posture of all. We're going to come into Shavasana, but we're going to do this with some props again. So we're going to use a blanket. I'm actually going to use 2, and I will show you why. So I have short legs, right? I'm okay with that. But my folding chair, if I lay my back on the floor and put my calf muscles in the chair, I feel like I'm lifting up a little bit, like my lower back has to create tension to let my legs be in the chair, and we don't want that. So if you don't have a folding chair, you can do this in your armchair. Again, just make sure you have enough propping up on the floor so that it's comfortable for you. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So you'll come to sitting down in front of the chair, and you're going to put your calf muscles in the chair. You can keep using your arms for support here. And when you're getting your legs in the chair, if you feel like your butt has to lift up, right, or the crease behind the knees is not resting right on the edge of the chair, then you need a little more support, okay? And we're going to use a different type of support also in a moment. So I have found that for me, if I have one blanket, that works great. So then we're going to come down nice and slow to the forearms and come all the way down. The other support we're going to use is putting a folded blanket underneath your sacral area, kind of like we did in that bridge pose. So you can actually walk the heels in just a little bit and push through the heels, if that feels okay to you, to lift the hips up to slide that underneath there. And all this does is puts you into a little bit of a back bend, but it's not a big one. It's very subtle, but it allows the lower back to completely surrender into the floor. It also allows the front of the body, your psoas, those hip flexors to relax. Believe it or not, even though you're in a flexion, in a flexed position, this will allow everything to soften and relax. You can actually take your hands to the inner thighs and you can just brush it outward, just kind of letting the body know, hey, we're going to let go, we're going to relax. And then bring the arms out nice and wide and close your eyes. And allow yourself to fully surrender and let go. Completely relinquish control of your breath. So come back to being just a witness to the breath. Notice how it feels when it's entering the nostrils and when it exits. Notice maybe where it is in the body. And again, no judging, just witnessing the breath. And then maybe you notice with each breath, you begin to relax a little more. The lower back releases a little more. Notice any tension dissolving throughout the whole body. Notice the muscles, those bands of muscles on your skull, right there on the scalp, the ones that raise your hair. Feel them letting go. Feel the muscles of speech behind the ears letting go. Maybe unclench your jaw if you're clenching. You can even swallow a couple of times and move the jaw around. Just let the tension drip away. Notice the softness behind the eyes. Notice the front, the back, and the sides of the neck letting go. Notice the heart space, open and relaxed. Notice the belly, just very gently and effortlessly, rising and falling, perfectly in tune with your natural breath. Just notice this. Notice the calf muscles spreading across the chair. And allow yourself the luxury of perfect stillness. Because this is a recorded video, stay as long as you like. Again, my name is Monica. Thank you so much for joining me for class today. Thank you to Rainbow Blossom for offering Taste of Yoga. It's such a great thing for our community. Namaste to each of you. Have a great day.